I don't know shit.
I don't know.
I don't know shit.
Coley, go ask Preacher Man.
I don't know shit.
He says he knows.
Yeah, I don't know shit.
Go ask Mr. Politician.
I don't know shit.
He says he knows. But me?
Yeah, I don't know shit.
Coley here, new revolutionary on co-op models, collaborative equity models, worker-owned communes, worker-owned co-ops, sweat equity, back-end, profit splits, joint ventures, the act of having social equity, the act of splitting an asset amongst a group of people, whether that's a physical asset, a property, house, apartment building, an intellectual asset, a film, an album, a song. You know, you split between all the writers who co-wrote it, or a film between all the collaborators, or a business, an equity, a stock in the companies shared amongst the executives, investors, and workers. But typically, the workers are left out of all these structures. If you listen to a common theme amongst all of them, workers, or the labor, is often left out of ownership. That's why there's the separation between capital and labor, ownership and workers, which is kind of feudal, sounds old school, and clearly they're not taking their fair cut because income inequality keeps getting worse and worse, wider and wider. I mean, the trend is the wrong way. And as the further differentiation happens, like an animal farm, you know, because of technology, instead of the windmill, the metaphorical windmill is technology. We made this machine, this for-profit machine, that spits out, you know, dividends and assets and percentage of the capital to the owners of it, and it operates automatically through robots, computers, automation. So this machine, this windmill that can do all the work for us, who needs even humans? Who needs even labor? What do you think that's going to happen? You're just gonna have that new world that spits out that, and then, like, who cares about the labor? That's a recipe for disaster and massive income inequality. And eventually people are going to have more and more fights and violence and resource battles or fights over watering holes, like in the beginning of Space Odyssey. It's going to get, you know, Lord of the Flies. It could get real weird. So we got to take care of each other and have collaborative ownership. You know, I think there's a couple big ways to do it. Is like an example on the ground is with the movie JEBUS. When we shot JEBUS, every single person down to hair and makeup got a percentage of the movie. That every actor, every producer, casting, crew, lighting, cinematography, you name it, everybody got a chunk. Everybody co-owns it. And then that way you can focus the cash on hard costs that you can't get around. So we all contribute our sweat equity. We all put our chips in. So we're all vested, and see how we do and what we get from the universe or the world. We split up, and the chips fall where they fall, and we're all equal in it. We're just doing something, and the math makes sense. You get the bigger percentage, the more hours and energy and contributions you make, and the less you make, the less you get. So it's not communism where it's equal. It's more like socialism and capitalism combined. You know, it's a capitalist structure, but socially shared as best you can get to as fair for the people's contributions. So for JEBUS, I get majority because I worked longer on it, 2-3 years, wrote it, directed it, played 5 roles, financed it, executive produced it, was a grunt, did all the legal work, 400 contracts. I mean, all sorts of stuff. I mean, a lot of work. So it wouldn't be fair for me to get equal. Then I would get resentful. So I need to have my fair share. And then somebody who contributed 4 weeks of shooting, you know, I try to get everybody who contributed about 4 weeks of shooting the same percent. Anybody who did pre-production for longer, like 6 months, same percent. Post-production, 3, 4, 5 months worth of work, you know, that percent. Try to do it in terms of energy, as if everyone's equal. So there's no hierarchy. There's nobody more important than the rest. It's just whoever contributed energy. It's all energy into equity, right? So that's an example of how to do it on the ground, like we did with the movie. And then you can do it all the way up to companies. You know, one of the ways we could solve income inequality, just real simple, without destroying capitalism, is doing worker IPO. So all of a sudden, all the major companies on the Fortune 500, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, you name it, Verizon, Google, all this, just do it, and 10 to 20% of the ownership of the whole company machine give to the workers. And now all of a sudden the workers co-own the means of production with capital. And now you have lesser income inequality without tearing down capitalism, without deciding what to take from someone else and giving to someone else. It's done in a way where it's shared, it's split, it's fair, it's co-owned for the co-contribution of energy. There's nothing communist about it, or and communism isn't even that terrible of a concept. There's books on it where you had 50 perfectly practicing monks. Communism might work decent because you're all pretty in tune. You got enough resources, you can pull it off. But the more people you add, the more it gets corrupted, and then it ultimately falls apart, or there's a strongman dictator in charge, and Animal Farm happens. And so rarely communism doesn't really work in practice. But socialism shouldn't be such a terrible word, and capitalism doesn't need to be such a terrible word. It's like everybody's like, capitalism versus socialism. Why don't we do like an element of both? If you're playing basketball, you're not going to just do man-on-man defense. You're going to do man-on-man and zone, depending on how you're playing or what team you're playing or what the situation is. So I think take the best parts of capitalism, which is structure, rule of law, ownership, distribution of capital, efficiency in business, with socialism, which is more equally shared. Workers co-own the means of production. Everybody gets a slice of their work product. I mean, you put that two together, it sounds like a pretty decent structure, right? So from the movie up to a company, you could do it. And then you could do it all the way up to the United States, like Social Security, right? We all put in through our taxes, and then we split it back when it's your time at Social Security. We're paying into a collective system for all of our Social Security, right? But we worry about it because of the debt on it, or they loan against it, or they take money out of the fund. And so they're worried about solvency. Will it be around for everyone? And that's because of poor financial mismanagement. Instead, if we had like a national investment fund or trust, like a sovereign wealth fund, like they have in a lot of big countries, Saudi Arabia, China, I think one of the, I think it might be Finland, or there's somebody in one of the Nordic countries that has a really big one. And, so they co-own a bunch of assets or stock in companies, and PepsiCo and all the, or index funds, and, all these assets. Oil that gets pulled out of the ground, mineral rights, things that were from public lands. I mean, the government auctions this stuff off and they sell it out, and there's all this corruption and oligarchy, and all of it seems to go to just a couple buds, and not many people are in on it. So you want to just keep being like, no socialism, no sharing the national assets. It's got to be free market, but they're going to take it all and we're going to have none. It's just like, I don't know if that's working either. And you don't want people making profit off of your death or injury, which is somewhat what the medical system is. It's just, I don't know why you want somebody profiting off of your downfall. That's a good way for your downfall to keep happening, So there's got to be some change to the way resources are shared to keep it solvent, and to make it more fair, so there's not social unrest and everything we're seeing fall apart already. So one way of doing that is a national fund. So instead of creating national debt that's paying the Social Security or social services that we need, roads, bridges, military, defense, and the world's getting more complicated with lasers and robots, and it's a weird world. So we need to, pay to social services in some respects, but why should it be building debt? If we're not willing to have a sovereign fund, but we're willing to build debt, that just doesn't make financial sense. Like, national debt's okay, national assets, that's communism. Or it's just like, maybe like mineral rights or this rights or whatever that you get off of public lands. That starts public. There's different ways that, I don't know. I don't know exactly what the answer is here, but if there was a sovereign fund that made enough in recurring revenue to pay for the recurring expenses, we would have a money tree. We'd have a money tree that collects money and then spits into the social services, so it doesn't go in any of our dime. And it stays solvent, and it doesn't even, come out of our pocket in taxes, because it's just well managed. We should be well managing our assets. We're not managing our assets well. So in America, in the global sense, companies and the economy in a middle sense, and all the way down to each of your own small businesses, ventures, films, projects, I just encourage social capitalism or conscious capitalism, fair capitalism, community-owned co-ops. Make your project a co-op or a co-owned co-op. That's what I'm thinking on it. It seems to be working. And we all got skin in the game. No pimps and hoes, just a group of people contributing energy. That's what this is about, keeping it real, right? Community co-owned co-ops. If you want to learn more about them or have the materials hand-delivered and handmade for you, the Excel cap table and the offering materials and the subscription agreement and the operating agreement on how the company or the venture works, or the contracts for your IP, whether it's filming, any of these things, just shoot me an email, Coley@coleytv.com, or go to revelutionary.com. That's spelled the same way, revelutionary.com. And there's packages on how to structure these things, and you can save a bunch of legal work and a bunch of money. So check it out. Do dope shit.
I don't know shit. Right now 76, thinking. I don't know shit. Yeah, I don't know shit.